How to write a short romantic story. Example 2, June and the Knight's Castle. June and the Knight's Castle is a short historical romantic time travel story about a contemporary young woman who meets a medieval knight in a museum castle that was once his castle. So, how have I created this short story? Part 1. Choose a topic you want to tell about and one event in the life of the character or characters in your story. How did the idea for this story come about? I was at the Heim Castle Museum in Hämeenlinna, Finland. This castle has a fascinating history. You can see its page online at the link in the description of this video. My family and I walked around the castle. We explored different parts of it, including an exhibition of artwork dedicated to one of the blood-chilling pages of its history. But the main thing for me was that the castle is medieval, and many other exciting things have happened in it during its existence that we will never know. Of course, the castle's walls were made of stone and were a couple of meters thick, which intrigued me. You can imagine this thickness when looking at the deeply embedded wall windows. I went forward. After a while, I entered the hall of the castle, where there was an exhibition of the arsenal of knights. I then entered one of the rooms of another castle hall and stopped. Faint daylight was pouring from the vaulted window onto the stone floor of the room, and everything else in this small hall was in semi-darkness. Suddenly, it seemed to me that someone was there. I turned around, and right in front of the window, I saw someone behind the glass of the rounded display case, and it was a knight. Or rather, just his armor. The knight's armor glistened faintly in the semi-darkness of the hall, and it seemed to me that he was about to come in here. This knight, who had long been gone, but his memory had been preserved. I decided that this castle was his, that knight who wore this armor. That is how this story about a girl and a knight in a museum castle began. 2. Formalizing the idea and images of the characters in the short story. And no doubt, my characters immediately appeared in my imagination: the girl who came to the museum and the knight who previously owned this castle. How did they meet? Why was he here? What was he thinking when he appeared in front of her? Why was the knight so sad? These questions occupied my imagination, and I began to imagine the scene of their meeting in the dark hall of the castle museum, and the dialogue of the characters in this story. Part 3. Intrigue and the moment when the plot of the story turns unexpectedly in a different direction, a twist. The girl did not realize at all that the knight was real. That is the catch of this introduction scene. Something suddenly threw my characters at each other, and that is where the love story began. A hurricane of feeling swept over the girl's heart, and the knight realized that he had found a heart full of love, which he had lost long ago. The emptiness in the girl's soul after the loss of her father did not allow her to live her whole life. She was looking for someone with whom she could find the understanding and warmth of her soul that her loving father had given her. And the need for love was so strong in her that the knight, even coming into her world from the past, became someone who could love her and give her warmth and protection. Part 4. The outcome of the story. I decided the girl would not let the knight disappear from her life. She would do anything to be with him, the one she liked so much. And she would go with him into his world, into his time. That is how I ended this short story. Of course, everything told in this short romance story never happened. But my imagination led the characters to each other. In my youth, I read a lot of historical novels, science fiction novels, and other classic literature. And so unexpectedly, I came upon the historical theme, not really, although this story only uses a castle as the entourage for the story of the characters meeting, and that castle in our time, romance, and time travel. This story about June and Galil may lead me, as a writer, to a more detailed story of a time travel romance. Time will tell, but I am already interested in writing a full historical romance with time travel. It is just a matter of finding the time to do it because I have many plans to create different stories. So there you have it. How I came up with the idea for this short romance story and how I wrote it. If you'd like to listen to this story as a whole or read it in my other romantic short stories, use the link to the audio story and the links to my short story collections in the description of this video and the comments. By creating a theme and how the story begins and ends, I'm sure you will make your short story and delight those who appreciate this art form. If you are interested, the following videos in this series, How to Write a Short Romantic Story, will explain how and why I have created a few more romantic short stories.